Hey guys, welcome back to Navigating Neva. I'm your host, Neva Nicole.
And I'm Wes King, your co-host. And today we're thrilled to have a conversation with somebody who has worn so many hats in aquatics for a long time. Elaena Noffsinger, welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we're so excited to have you. So, at the end of our little intro, you guys saw that we have a giveaway, and at the end of the night, we will pick our winner for the giveaway for April. But today, we're happy to have Elaena, and your journey began 16 years ago as a lifeguard, and it's taken you through your swim school, through water parks, community recreations, and now on to entrepreneurship. She's tackled team management, burnout, pool recovery, and staff development. Basically, everything that happens in aquatics, you've lived it, right?
Full
Yeah,
circle.
yeah, for real.
So, we're going to start at the very beginning. What pulled you into aquatics, and then why'd you stay?
Oh man, this is actually already first question right off the bat, already a big question. I don't think that you choose aquatics. I think aquatics chooses you. We
Check.
don't choose any of this. There's no way, right?
Well
Not by
said, very well
choice.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's like going to Target and how Target tells you how you have to buy something. That's what aquatics is. It just says you have to do it. But I think that oh why I've stayed is because of the people. Whether it's your
Mm.
patrons or whether it's your staff. I mean, I can genuinely say that every staff member I have loved. I have some form of love for them in one way or another. And they are the reason that I stay. Watching them turn in and blossom into this amazing guard and watching them come back every summer or whatever and seeing how they develop and change. And, they're this little scrawny 15-year-old and all of a sudden they're a man and they're a firefighter. Like, whoa, crazy. Or they're a nurse or they're a dentist, like that sort of thing. I love watching that progression and that
Me
change in a
too.
person.
Me too.
That's fat. And you've done that in so many places. Would you give the audience a little background on some of those environments that you've worked in, from the park district to the teaching, just so they can get an understanding of how you've helped those individuals grow and be a mentor for them?
So I started out at a high school pool. That was my very first management position. I worked as a lifeguard in like the athletic center type situation as well. And then I've managed water park, and I've gone back and managed a municipal pool, but it was a private municipal pool, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah. And then going back again, of course, right now I manage a municipal pool on top of running my own swim school. So
Doubling down.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm doing both at the same time. It's a lot.
Fair.
Yeah, you're not the only guest that's done that. They didn't say
Oh,
that. They
really?
said after. Yeah, so I'm really, maybe we should do a poll because I didn't realize there were so many of us that love aquatics so much. We do it before and after work, or like at work and then after work. So yes, welcome to the club.
Yeah,
The
we
question should be which of us don't do it twice or three times, right? How many people just do their own job?
Yeah.
Um, and to that point, is there something that's been a favorite part of that career for maybe you, Elaena, that whether it was transitioning from one section to another, maybe it's seeing a certain area of swim instructors lifeguard, what's been a favorite part of that progress or development in your career for you?
So my favorite pool would have to be when I was in Rexburg, Idaho, which would be Rexburg.
We all know where that is. I'm certain every listener knows, but just in case Tracy from Smartlist is listening, where is Rexford in Idaho? Rexford, Idaho.
So Rexburg is southeast Idaho. It's about an hour and a half away from West Yellowstone and about an hour and a half away from Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
So now
So
we can all picture it. Sorry, go
We
ahead.
can.
yeah, you kind of feel like
Exactly.
you're on the edge of the world at that point. Like if you're gonna go east, the nearest Walmart after that one is like, I don't know, it's somewhere in Montana and it's like 4 hours away. If you
Love that.
go west or south, then you'll run into things. But home was Wisconsin for me. And
Yeah.
so going east was the direction I would go. So I just felt, yeah, like I was really on just the corner of the earth and I'm, ready to jump off. But that place really has my heart and soul. I managed that pool for 4 years. I had a year off after I had my daughter, and went through so many challenges there, went through some of the best times of my life there, had my kids there. Like
Yeah.
it was a really wild time of my life, going from like being married but not having kids yet, and then having my kids, and that transition of motherhood and who I was
Hmm.
as a person, and how my um yeah, just my outlook on life, I think, was changing at that time. And so it got to see just this crazy transition of viewpoints and time management and all of that.
In a different part of the world that most of us don't get to experience, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
with the, yeah, that's
Well,
fascinating.
that
Awesome.
place was really crazy because, like, as you can imagine, Idaho doesn't have a whole lot of swimming availability. It's a
Sure.
landlocked state,
Yeah.
and there's not a whole lot of pools.
Right.
So you're talking about the kind of people that are your lifeguards. I mean, it was a little bit of a transient area. So every once in a while, I would have a lifeguard who moved from Arizona or California or something like that. And when they were smaller, they had swim team experience and whatnot. But the vast majority of the guards that would come in had little to no swimming experience. So
Interesting.
the whole, how like around COVID time, everybody was like, they don't have the skills for the lifeguard, for the lifeguard class. They don't know how to swim anymore, like that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Well, prior to COVID in Idaho, they didn't have it either.
No,
That was
well, yeah,
normal for you.
yeah.
You didn't know
Yeah,
any
so that
different.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
didn't know any different.
Yeah.
So I was already going in and having to teach them how to swim right off the bat. So I got really, really skilled at teaching kids, or teaching, I call them kids, but they're teenagers, but whatever. Just going to call them kids because that's what's in my head.
That's what they are.
Uh,
Yeah.
but so I got really skilled at teaching them how to swim quickly and efficiently in a strong
Hmm.
manner. And making sure that we were doing that before we were doing the prerequisites of the lifeguard curriculum was, yeah, that was already something that we were doing anyway. So
Smart.
yeah, so that all worked out in my favor. That was just a smooth transition.
That
It
was,
did.
yeah.
And
So
it
when you,
helped me so much after COVID, where everybody was
Mm.
struggling with that. That was
Like
so
second,
helpful for me
second
anyway.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not a big deal. Got it covered. But if I could go, if you don't mind, I'd like to go kind of backwards into
backwards.
my
Oh, yeah,
history a little bit,
yeah.
Please.
and say more into about like kind of the first question of how did I get into aquatics, what
How'd you,
made me stay,
yes,
and stuff like that.
Rock and roll. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I had, so of course, so I think when I thought about this question, the first thing that popped into my head was like when I was real little, I had, so I grew up in a town called Seymour, Wisconsin, which is like 20 minutes west of Green Bay. And it had like a population of maybe 3,000 when I was younger. And we had a pool that was built, I'm going to age myself, but I think it was built in 2000 or 99 or something like that. And I was in third grade, and that just so happened to be the age that they said you had to be in order to swim on your own at this pool. So if you were finished with third grade, it was the summer going into fourth grade, you
Mhm.
could come there by yourself. So me and my friends, we'd ride our bikes up to the pool, and that's where we spent our time. And then we had a lake,
Yes.
and we had a lake in town, and it was nice at that time. And again, that's where we spent our time. There wasn't much else to do in town, right? So we swam.
Unless you're going to Sheboygan, by the way. Unless you're, then you got to play. Anyway, sorry. Go
I didn't
ahead.
have my driver's license yet. I wasn't going to
Fair.
ride my bike there.
Fair. Fair. Fair.
But so then we didn't have a swim team yet or anything like that, but we did have a competitive swim class. And I did a lot of competitive swim classes. And when I reached my freshman year of high school, I decided to join the girls' swim team, which turned out to be the right decision because I remember really, that was a tough decision for me to make. It was during the musical at school, it was during volleyball season. I was like, what do I choose? I had no
Whoa.
idea. And I chose swim, thank goodness, right? And then I ended up, swim team, of course, all 4 years of high school. And I
Wow.
had ended up working as a lifeguard at that same pool. Well,
Okay.
on my 18th birthday, I had missed an in-service and I nearly got, or yeah, I should say nearly got fired. I quit before they fired me. And I knew at that time that wasn't a me issue because I was also working at a different pool where
Ah.
I was very successful at this other pool. And so it's like, okay, so that was a culture thing. That was my first real experience of like knowing that pools could have, or workplaces in general could have different cultures.
Great point.
And so at this other pool that I was working at, I was already like teaching aerobics classes. I was, helping create all these EAPs. I was doing all of that sort of thing. They had given me my WSI certification. So I kept working there through college. And then I think it was 2008, year doesn't matter, of course, but in that time, my supervisor, she was pretty high up in the Red Cross, and she had given me my LGI. She had given me my WSIT. And that's
well done.
that was back before you had to do any of the academies, you know? So that
Still
was,
not easy.
yeah. And then after that, I had let all my certifications go. I'm in college. I'm thinking I'm not going to ever use them. I'm moving on, right? And then, there's the 2008 financial crisis, and still 2010, I graduated college, and there was no jobs. No, at least around here, there was no jobs. And you either went on to grad school or you went back to your high school or college job. And I was waitressing, and what else was I doing? Oh, I was a nanny. There we go. I was a waitress and a nanny. And a position became available for my high school pool that I nearly got fired from. And I had a friend who said, I think I'm going to apply for this. It's just admin work, right? And I was if you think you're qualified, because she wasn't a swimmer, had nothing. And I was like, if you think you're qualified, then I'm definitely. And so I applied. Next day I got an interview. Next day I had a job. And I went back to my old supervisor. I said, hey, can we redo this?
Right.
He said,
there you
sure,
go.
let's do it. And I got all my certifications back. And yeah, I managed that pool for 4 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That is fast. And to your point, you mentioned earlier when you start off at Aquatics doesn't choose us, or we don't choose Aquatics, it chooses us. And there's your example, right? Your base pool, after you thought you were done with it, like everybody else listening to this conversation, it brings you back, and then you didn't just go there, you stayed there. And to your point, you were successful there.
Well, I tried to get out.
Didn't we all?
I tried to get out. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this the rest of my life. It didn't pay super well. I thought I could do better, like I get better things. I had tried to become a health inspector. I thought, do I go on to grad school for microbiology? Do I become a chiropractor? I went through a lot of different options trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And none of them were working out. Nothing.
Fair.
Aquatics chose you.
Yeah. I once quit the same job on Friday and got rehired on a Monday morning because the person that replaced me couldn't last the weekend in the same property. So I can appreciate the attempts to get out and get pulled right back in. And I thought I was never going back there. But anyway, so to your point,
that's great.
And I know, Nicole, we want to talk about some staff leadership, right? And some staff.
We do.
Yeah. Tell us more.
So, my next question for you is, when you think about your journey from lifeguard, when you ran away and then you came back and you were a leader and to business owner, what's something that you wish people understood about working in aquatics?
I wish that they understood that it's everything.
Like, put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, that we as an industry, the people that are in this field, we are paralyzed in our thinking, because when we're trying to get out, let's say, because of all the burnout, like we're burnt out because we're doing everything. And when we think about what else we're qualified for, all of us say, I've got nothing else. There's nothing else that I can do. What else can I do? But when you think about everything that we do, we're chemists, we're psychologists, we're logistics, we're we're EMTs, we're food service people, we're moms,
business managers, financiers.
Like we do so many things that are so valuable to the business world or other entities that make money. The only thing is pools don't make money.
Or not seen as.
They're not seen as making money. But for the majority of us, there's a reason why they're, for the most part, municipal pools, right?
100% fair.
It's because they usually run in the red.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Even if you didn't want them to, you're restricted by other avenues that prevent you from running in the red. Yeah.
Right.
I wish that somebody would have told me that the only careers that make money are the positions where that job makes money for someone else. Like teachers, for example, they don't make a whole lot of money, right? It's because teachers don't make money. Schools don't make money.
Good analogy. And to your point, even if your pool kills it, it may have to support other components of the property, or is just one section of the entire operation. And I want to go back to one thing you said too, if you don't mind, about all the things we do. One of the exercises I take people through and coach people on is resume building. And an exercise I like to do is, if you listed all the things you just talked about on a resume and replace the word aquatics, but put finance, put tennis, somebody is going to look at that resume much cleaner and go, oh, well, I want to have this person. So you take all the attributes you have and you write it with the mindset of it's not in a pool.
Right.
And then you can create a resume, or create even an interview, or create a business plan that says, forget that's in a pool just for a minute. Now look at me as a leader, as an executive, as a business owner, as all the things. And then later on tell them that, oh, by the way, I did all that in a pool, and maybe no one drowned and died. But that's a struggle we all have, is being able to transfer our skill sets, even communicatively, in writing or in action outside of a pool. You're spot on. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say, I've always felt like aquatics was the redheaded stepchild. And then I once worked at a facility where we were like, our location was the redheaded stepchild, and aquatics was the redheaded stepchild. And no one prepared me for that. And I just made it's funny that that's what you said, or that's what your answer was, because I made a post this week after I got off the phone with a lady who I'd never met, and now that she moved away, she called me and she's like, I'm doing the job remotely. And I'm like, of course. I was like, why are you doing that? But I was like, of course you are. Like, why would you not? And she told me that she had made the team. And I mean, I'm sure you've had the same feeling when you get your group and you've got them through high school and you're going to have them through college, and you've just crafted that. I've always thought as aquatics, as an orchestra, what are they called? The orchestra person. Yeah.
Conductor?
Conductor?
Yeah, I was going to say conductor, but I'm like, that's a train.
Bradley Cooper, Maestro?
Yeah, but that's how I've always felt of aquatics. But I feel like we feel so undervalued because they look at us as the redheaded stepchild, or
the black sheep redheaded stepchild. Sorry,
and you're just open for these 3 months, or even if you're open all year. I've always worked where we're open all year, but we were still treated that way. And if we were cutting budget, they were like, "Well, we're just going to close from 1 to 4." I'm like, "Who? What?" And I'm sure I could do a poll on that. I'm sure tons of people's hours were cut different times from 1 to 4 when the programs weren't happening. They decided,
especially in the flyover state. I'm from Central Illinois. I've got family in Oxford, Wisconsin. I lived in Baraboo. So again, not living your Wisconsin life by any means, or Idaho, but very similar in the mindset that now you've got the weather, now you've got seasonality. Anyway, sorry, Elaena, go ahead. Yeah, where are you?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Something I was going to say, if I can, I got to try and pull it out. I got to go back to where we were.
You can blame me for that.
Something I was going to say was that so often I think that occurs because our upper level management doesn't understand aquatics. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same
page. That's a weekly bingo card check we have with all guests.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, without knowing it, you just checked a bingo card.
Yeah, they don't get it. And so you had one of these questions that I thought was good if I could find it on here.
Fire away.
Managing physical spaces or something like that. I don't know. It was a question, something that popped up in one of those questions that we as an industry get so bombarded in everything that we have to do that we forget to step back and tell others what we're doing.
Great point.
That we need to go back and we need to write down or log what we're doing, so that way we can go to our management and say, these are all the successes I've had, you know?
Oh, preach on.
Like, so for example, this summer, I have all of my lifeguards returning except for 2.
That is so big.
Yes.
And that's so big because that says so much about how you as a leader are treating your culture or your
The
That's
team.
what I
succession planning.
think too.
Yes, it is
Yes.
100% true.
Especially
Stars for you.
especially where the supervisor under me has now left.
Yes.
So
Ooh.
despite that, even with a management change,
They still
I've
came back.
still been able to maintain all of that except for 2. That's
amazing.
something that I went over to my supervisor and I said, hey, look at what I've done. This is amazing. And she thought it was amazing too. And I've learned from her to bring it up the chain. So that's one of the
Yes.
reasons why I do that then for my staff now too.
Yeah.
Things that they do, I bring to my
Yeah.
supervisor and say, these are the amazing things happening.
Yeah.
And, you know, and she put it into the city report, and it got pumped out to the city that this is happening.
And you know, there's a financial person can equate how much money you save them, by the way.
Yes.
And that's the anyway, keep going.
Well,
But I love the fact you're able to deliver that
There's
information.
pros and cons to that, right? When I have a more senior staff, that means I'm paying them more, right? I still have the same amount of hours going on in the pool. So technically I needed a bigger budget to maintain these, you know?
Oh,
Yeah,
I meant that it's
exactly.
8 times more expensive to hire somebody than to keep somebody.
Well,
But yes, incrementally, time, effort, energy. But yes, dollar amount, you're right. Great point. Contradictory to say, hey, you're going to pay more, but they're going to be around longer, or I can spend all my life trying to recruit. So yeah, absolutely spot on.
Yeah, you have a happier staff all the way around. Better retention always leads to better customer service, happier customers.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, the whole shebang.
More money,
Paying
better customer
staff
service,
more.
more people are coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it always works out, but I don't remember how I got.
No, you were saying that. I think you were saying we need to advocate for ourselves.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have successful moments. Don't be shy about bringing it up. And I think you've done a great job of being able to transfer that information in a way that the boss cares. Right? We all know the majority of leaders in the industry don't have an aquatic background. Okay, fine. We have to be able to convey to them what we do. To your point, let's not only convey what we do, let's convey how we do it. Let's convey our successes and what it actually means. Everybody returned from your team except 2 people. That means you get to go run a team that's experienced and engaged and knowledgeable. And like, those are a whole other problems to worry about than a brand new lifeguard. That's just awesome. Yeah.
So on this, I want to ask, what helped you build your management or why do you think your people keep coming back?
So, I mean, we have to go backwards a little bit to go forwards with that question. So going into my very first position, so my very first management job in the Seymour Aquatic Center, we had 2 weeks out of the year, and one in the spring, or actually I forget when. Anyway, there was 2 a year when we would do an annual shutdown, and a lot of pools do that. That's not uncommon. But one of those shutdowns was when I had a lot of college staff available, and the other one was when I had a lot of high school staff available. And both were really important, or I learned became really important, because you know how when you move into a new house or a new apartment, that house or that new home doesn't become yours until you clean it. Right?
There, yes.
We've all had that feeling before. The same thing happens with a pool or any place you work at. It's not yours until you have looked in every nook and cranny. You have figured out where everything is. You have cleaned it. You have given it a piece of your soul. Right?
Yes.
Probably your skin and blood too.
Yes. And hours, yes.
Yeah, and hours. And after it becomes yours, that ownership starts building. Now you suddenly care. Now that you've cleaned that office, you've got every little piece of dirt out of it. You know, like someone's stinky Crocs, like you've moved them out of your space. No more. That's not coming back in.
Yeah.
And that person who blew up whatever in the microwave, that microwave's clean and you're not screwing it up.
Right.
You know? As soon as you get that and you get the dust off of your emergency blankets or whatever, you know, like that, all those people there feel a piece of that pool. And especially if you have something where they can write their name on it, or they
Yes.
can really
Mhm.
make it their
Yes.
own. If you have a new
Yes.
piece of equipment that you want to bring out there, have them build it. You don't build it. You don't have a parks crew
Yep.
build it. If you, I mean, as long as it's not too expensive,
Right,
right?
right, right. What they can do, let them do.
Yeah,
Right.
let them
Yeah,
Yes.
do. Let
Yes.
yeah,
them build it. The
yeah.
more things that you can have them take control of, the more you're going to build that ownership. And as you build that ownership, they're going to appreciate everything more. They start to see what you're doing. They start to care a little bit more for the patrons and the quality of everything.
Yeah.
And it's very incremental. Like, I find that developing that ownership is the cornerstone of everything that has to be done to manage a facility or rebuild a facility.
Pay
Yes.
attention, audience.
Yes. This is good
Ownership
stuff.
yeah. I used to have a thing called the chair team, and we had to put the chairs out every day, but everybody would break them, and so we would have guards that were responsible, not just clean. And if you broke their chairs or you didn't clean them right, they'd hunt you down 3 days later. But their
Yeah.
reward was they got to sit in the chairs. They worked really hard, and so when everybody else was power washing and doing garbage, the chair team could take a break in the chairs because they cleaned and hosed them all down. Awesome, and they take great pride. It's like 4 people. But to your point, man, I never had one single plastic strip dirty and all, but they owned it. Anyway, spot on. Yeah.
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 And then when you have a senior staff, when you get to your next years or, over time, and you have new people that come in and they see how much your staff is caring for that pool, and you've set that foundation of this is where the cleanliness is. This is how we treat our customers. This is how we talk to them. This is how we communicate among the staff ourselves. Once you set that
Mhm.
foundation, it's way easier to keep it going. But for me, it has to start with that cleaning.
I
So,
love it.
so
Yeah.
every season when we're reopening, we do orientation, which is, I mean, it's very boring for them, is listening to me talk for a couple of hours, right?
I hate it too, but it's like at the lifeguard class where you have to dump. The only option is to dump it, but I hate it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but you're right. You absolutely have to. You have to set that foundation for these are my expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
even though they might not, you might, at least for me, I tend to I tend to be a little bit more lenient than what those
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell them. I won't tell them either.
Yeah, I will
We
tell
gave away a lot of
Your
trade
secret's
tickets
good.
last week, so we're okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm a lot more lenient than what those
Yeah.
things are written down. But I have to have them for in case something goes wrong, right? Where I can
Right.
go back and
Right.
say, this is what it is, and you received this manual and you signed it, and blah blah blah. But you go through that orientation, they know what their expectations are, and at the beginning of the season where there's so much enthusiasm for them to be there, it's their
Yes.
first job, they really want to be there, they really want to show off, and like, I'm the best worker ever, like that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Use it to your advantage.
Yes. Crush their souls. I mean, make them clean
Yeah.
garbage cans. I said clean, not crush
We
their
do
souls.
clean garbage cans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clean. But you're right. Use it to your advantage. You want to show me how happy you are to be here? Let's go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
real.
that is also the best time, like physically moving. You know how they say if you're in a like a argument with your spouse or something, you should go on a walk with them to talk. You're moving and you're talking, and
I would end up in the middle of the street on a highway. I
Yeah,
fear.
my husband doesn't go on
but
walks either, so maybe that wasn't the best analogy.
but keep going. We're with you. Sorry, we both thought about how our wives would push us in the
Right.
or our spouses would push us in the
Yes.
street, but we are with you. Yes.
Not
But
safe.
Active movement.
moving, and that's the best way to build teamwork too. The lifeguard class in general, I think, does a really good job of building teamwork, but building that teamwork while also cleaning something is another really good way to build that foundation and start brick by brick laying it. So I don't pair people together that know each other.
On purpose. Me too.
Yeah,
Yep.
people that don't know each other. And that's hard, right? Because you have so many different cliques coming together. Sometimes they go to the same school, sometimes they don't, sometimes they have dated each other before, sometimes they're going
No
to
way, no
each other.
way, no
Never
way.
in aquatics. We don't deal with that. What are you talking
can't
about?
be. I can't
Crazy.
believe it. We used to do the Remember the Titans clip where they would have the roommates and I would make them watch the Remember the Titans clip where they had the roommates and they have to know one thing about your family member. And we couldn't have three practices a day, but I would let them know that if they don't do this, I'm going to make them watch the whole movie. My threat to the team was they're going to have to sit down and watch me watch Remember the Titans with them. and
With
nobody
no
wants to watch.
phones, no phones.
No, just me quoting the whole movie. So very quickly they got engaged and got to learn each other very fast. So, but to your point, all it takes is a few people to connect, and the rest will follow for sure. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
I need to rewatch that movie. It's been a long time.
yeah,
Well,
we're gonna move on to burnout and resilience. So Wes has some questions.
yeah. So, and again, kind of getting to the tail end of how you've gotten to your career and all this discussion, you've come, you're very positive, you're very uplifting, you're very engaging, and you've got some very meaningful concepts that you've applied. How do you avoid burnout, and how do you teach others to avoid burnout? Especially knowing that we're all going to be crazy here the next 3 weeks and then for the next 3 months. What are some of the things? Because you've come up with some gems so far.
Well, I've learned some hard lessons, but I would not say I'm a master.
Fair.
There was just that article that came out today in the AOP. I always get the order of that wrong.
Me too.
AOAP. There we go. My gosh. Right? Is that right?
I don't know. We're gonna go with it. It's the right four letters. That's all that matters. You have the right four letters. We know what you're talking about.
Okay, good.
Right. And it's not Wordle, so we're fine.
That the lady that wrote that article had said to find a friend and go visit a friend on your lunch break. And I thought, oh my gosh. And if I'm friends with you on Facebook, you probably saw that I made a post right after I read that article saying like, I'm looking for people to go have lunch with me so I actually take my lunch. And
right. That's true.
That was kind of like the next step I needed to start forming those boundaries with work. So going back to this is how my swim school was born, was through burnout. You too?
Oh.
Yes. Okay. We're moving on to great things because of it, I guess. We're phoenixes, right? We rise.
We are. Yes.
Oh, well played.
That's so, yes.
Well done.
So, gosh, it's so frustrating because with burnout, you love your pools, you love your staff, and you want to make sure that everything goes right. And going back to the question of what do we wish other people realized about aquatics?
Yeah.
They don't realize how much coaching is involved with staff who have never had a job before. They don't know that like when we're like even how to find the lifeguard class when it goes directly to their email. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to count cash anymore. And so that closeout till
what is cash?
Like if you're exactly. What is cash? So you're feeling like you have to be there at the end of the night because even your head guards that have been there for a few years can't count cash either.
You can't get hit by a bus. The aquatic way I've called it getting hit by a bus theory. And if I got hit by a bus, what would happen? And I think you're spot on. We all have the feeling of I better not get hit by a bus because what happens without me, right? And we probably have more help than we know, but I think you're also spot on in saying that I know I have to do my job. I have to train you to do your job. Then I have to make sure the person underneath you can do their job while the person above me might not know any of these things.
Yeah. And it's not only that, it's you trying to save yourself for tomorrow. You know, like if those chemicals are wonky the night before, you want to try and make sure that everything's going to run smoothly because otherwise at 5 a.m. when your head guards come in and you're not there, you're going to be getting phone calls.
So yeah, you're worried about tomorrow too.
Yeah.
Did you just get a phone call?
No, I was acting that out for you because I can't tell you how many times I left the pool and I'm like, okay, who's opening tomorrow? Am I going to get a phone call? And in aquatics, it's a 5:30 phone call. So it doesn't matter when your alarm's set. And then as you get older, you wake up and you don't go back to bed. So you're burning the candle at both ends. And I've worked places where I worked at aquatic facilities where I didn't have to be there 24/7. And then I've also worked at facilities where somebody had to be there. So I had to be the last one to leave with the guards, to drop the money and then close the doors, make sure they did the bathroom, coming from a place where I did not have to be there ever. I mean, I was there like 9 to 5 and then I was there obviously more than 9 to 5, but I didn't have to stay from sun up to sun down. And then I went to a facility where somebody was there, sun up to sun down. And I was like, wow. But you do. And then you leave and you're like, who's going to call me?
Yeah.
But I think you're, good.
I went years telling my husband I was going to be home at a certain time. And then 2, 3, 4 hours later, you're finally calling saying, I'm on my way home.
I'm leaving now. Or
my boyfriend, the chlorine tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
My boyfriend, the chlorine tank is mad at me.
The pump room is
yeah.
mad at me. Yeah.
The to your point of getting a break, my trick, and it wasn't my trick, my old right hand, who's in the military now, was Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen used to come on every day at 2 o'clock, and if I had not eaten my lunch, I became somebody that was just not. I was just annoying and dumb, and nobody wanted to be around me. And so at 2 o'clock, Ellen would come on, and my right hand would turn to me, and it was Jessica. She goes, "Wes, go get your lunch. Go watch Ellen. Go watch your monologue. Go dance with her. I will see you at 3 o'clock." And if
Leave.
4 out of 5 days a week for years that didn't happen, and so then I stopped working there, and then I just started watching Ellen on my own, which was awesome. But my point is that I had to have an hour. I knew when it was going to be, and it was set, and everybody knew watching Ellen. And I even had a couch in my office to do it.
But
So
you just brought up a great point: accountability. You not only you're accountable for yourself, but you also made sure that your priorities were known to the others around you, and they held you accountable to that.
Well, it wouldn't have been pretty otherwise. But to your point, yes, it might have been out of need. But you're right. It built a relationship around, hey, get your meetings in, get done, and then I could start fresh at 3 o'clock. But it definitely took a lot of effort from a lot of people, and then we could really have long days and good days. But yeah, you're spot on accountability, and kind of tie that back up. Let's bring that, if you wouldn't mind, kind of close the loop a little bit. Has your experience been with accountability over your career? What have you seen ups and downs with being able to enforce things with your staff, hold them accountable, and see them grow by holding them accountable?
So I think it comes back to opportunity. Like, you have to give them an opportunity to be accountable. So where we're talking about burnout, we're doing too much. We're trying to take it all on, right?
There you go.
So we have to provide opportunities of accountability, or to delegate. We have to delegate those tasks and know that they will not be done our way.
Yes,
They're going
ma'am.
to make mistakes just like we did when we were young, and sometimes they're going to make the same mistake over and over and over again, right? But that's where we have those different levels of training. That's where we have somebody maybe to check in on them too.
A buddy, a partner.
Yep, exactly. And they're not the only person that's trained in that. I'm not someone, how like the old way of thinking was like, I've got to keep my job secret because I don't want to lose my job. Like I've got to know how to do all these things, and all these other people can't know about it, because otherwise I'm going to be replaceable.
Job security.
Job security. And that's not the way aquatic managers can live. We can't.
Not anymore.
No. Like we as managers need to provide those opportunities by writing those SOPs. And having, like, they have to be written. You cannot walk into a pump room. And I'm still guilty of this. I've always wanted to create a massive manual for my pump room with pictures and like arrows and all these things. Yeah. And I don't think anybody's ever figured that out. I would love to see someone who's actually figured that out so I can replicate it. But I've never met somebody who's actually figured it out.
Right. And you think that, like, when you go to CPO class, that they're going to give you that Bible for your pool, and no, you're like, oh, well, that was okay. Now I can do formulas. Cool.
Yeah.
You're like, I thought you were going to give me like the holy grail of how this room operated, but no.
Yeah. But we have to. You take multiple people into that pump room with you and show them, this is how you do it. This is why this is all set this way, if you know it, or anything else that you have going on in the pool. This is the whys for how we do it, and all of these people are going to learn. All of these people may not touch all those levers or all those things every day, because sometimes that gets hairy. That's too many hands in the pot, right?
Check.
But they need to know, this is how we do it, this is why we do it, that sort of thing. And so that way, if someone's sick, somebody misses something, somebody's too busy, another person can step in.
Right.
All about that teamwork.
I love that. And to your point, notice you didn't say they had to be aquatic people. I think you emphatically, it could be a fitness person. To your point, we can't survive. No man is an island, right? I think Bob Dylan or somebody as such made a great song about that or something. Point being is, no woman is either. And I love what you're saying, is that stop believing you have to do it all yourself, because you don't, and start understanding what it takes to get the help. Put it in writing, put it on paper, force people to smell chlorine near a pump room. Not in the pump room, near the pump room, right? So they understand what it should be like and can help. Absolutely. Yeah.
But again, if you're not going to your supervisor and saying, hey, these are all the successes that we're having, and these
Great
are the
reminder.
problems that I'm having, you're not going to get that help. If you're not going to the parks guys or the finance or the fitness guys or something like that, if you're not communicating properly, you're not going to get that help, because nobody wants to take more on, especially
Yeah.
your parks guys. They're overloaded too.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
or your maintenance guys or whoever. They're
We
overloaded.
call him Keith. We call him Keith, don't we, Nicole?
Yeah.
It's
We do
Keith with
call
his
him
cigarette
Keith.
and his beer belly sticking out. God bless
Yeah.
Keith outside the
He's
cigarette.
the best.
Anyway,
I mean, I love him. Yeah.
But you're right,
Well,
he can't take more. But yeah.
A lot of times you have to go to your supervisor and you have to say, these are my choices right now.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to navigate that conversation. You know,
Why we call it navigating.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Well played. We knew we'd get there.
Yeah, sometimes we have to navigate that situation so that way they come to the same decision that we do. You have
That's
to,
the goal.
if you're not having monthly meetings with your supervisor, change that. You like schedule it. You schedule it with your supervisor, because you need to have that communication and they need to be helping you. And that's something that so many aquatics folks do not have. They have that inactive supervisor. You can't do that because you can't be successful without that chain of command and without that.
Right. And I think you answered that. I didn't ask that question, but that's the answer. The answer, I think, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it says, what advice would you give to professionals who are feeling stuck or overwhelmed? And I think that's what you need to tell them. Like, if you're not meeting with your boss or whoever's your management once a month, you need to. I think that helps you with the burnout and helps you.
And if your manager sucks, if your manager is not someone that you get along with, then you need to start providing numbers. Speaking in a language that they understand. And so it take a little bit more work on your part of figuring out how you can delegate other tasks so that way you can sit there and number crunch, but you need to provide numbers so that way you have something to stand on. There was something, oh gosh, your audience is going to kill me. Pete DeQuincy. Okay, we all know who Pete DeQuincy is, right? I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff, but he has talked about how, like, gosh, his crew is like part of fire and rescue, right? Or something like that, EMS, I don't know. But like how he gets all of his funding, and like he was the one that changed my mindset with all the number crunching. Like,
finances.
Why do all the firefighters get all the money and the aquatics folks don't? But we do very similar things. We do
the same thing, and I keep bringing this up over and over again because I feel like we're both public safety, and then our town does something all the time where they do it. I think it's a free luncheon for public safety, and not me. Somebody on the Facebook said that lifeguards are first responders. Wes probably knows who said it, and I'm like, yes, say that. That is what we need to say more, because we are, but we're all of that and more, and we just don't ever sell it.
Well, and I think to anybody that's been listening to this for more than 1 week or heard the progression of this podcast is hear the same message in a different way. A few weeks ago, it was don't barge in like a bull in a china shop. Last week, our guest talked about being prepared for a meeting. And now we're hearing not only be prepared, but do it in a manner that's consistent, right? So again, if you're listening to this podcast, pay attention to the guests, because they're saying very similar things in very different ways. And I think what you're hearing today is, if you're going to have this meeting and your boss isn't going to listen, use finances. If your boss is going to listen, use real factual information about what you do and your successes so you can validate the finances, the requests, all the things you need to justify what you're doing, because they don't know. And if you don't tell them, they're not going to get it. And I think the finance is another great way to go. So again, keep paying attention to what we're talking about, because it's a lot of good stuff's coming out here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All of that burnout, though, is essentially what I said before led me to start my own business.
That's where we're going to transition to. What made you start your own business? What was that leap like? What made you start it? And what is that leap like?
So, gosh, I remember being in my car and I was pulling out of, we have a Walmart and a Sam's Club. I live in Janesville now. And
I know Janesville.
And we have a Walmart and a Sam's Club that's smack dab next together. And I saw some signs for a different swim school in town. And it was advertising a wage for swim instructors. And am I allowed to swear on your podcast? Probably not.
I uploaded. One of them asked if there's questions, so let's just not.
Okay. But I was like, oh man, I saw this wage and it was really high. This wage that they were paying swim instructors was the same wage as what I made shifting into my current role. So when I first started in 2021, and I thought, no way, no way. Like the same after, and I had this many years of experience.
Making some money.
I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And I remember driving down the road to my house, just being really angry at it. Like, I have not put this much work into my career just for some 16-year-old to make the exact same wage that I'm making. This is not right. And that was the moment. And I was already kind of dabbling with like entrepreneurship, like ideas. I had a lot of ideas for different things flowing through my head. But that was the moment that I had said, I'm going to start a swim school.
There we go.
And after that, I was stuck. I was like, well, okay, it's going to take me like 5 years to be able to afford to like a down payment on a facility. And I'm going to have to do a lot of like finding grants and finding people to buy into the idea and stuff.
Right.
And I don't know how to do any of this. And I talked to my brother who owns his own. Well, I honestly don't even know what he does. He does everything, but
we'll use a different name.
It's construction.
It always is.
He does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We don't judge, but he walked you to maybe how you don't have to do all that stuff.
He was just like, he so simply had said, well, why don't you just find a pool? And I was like,
yep.
Oh, are you kidding me? Is it really that easy? Like,
if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I thought, well, why not start a swim school? Like, I have already run so many different swim programs, restarted so many different programs. I know everything about running a swim lesson program. I've taught how many hundreds of kids how to teach swim lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know how to accelerate this process. Why not do this? I have a skill. So I was a member of, I still am a member of this gym in town, the Janesville Athletic Club. We can name them because they're my partner.
Yeah.
And I sent them an email just saying, hey, I'm interested in this. And I never received a response. And
Typical.
I sent it again and didn't receive a response. And I was like, shoot. So on my lunch break, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation and with different thoughts that I had and revenue, because I knew that was going to probably be the money or the selling point really was how much money they could make off of it. And on my lunch break, I went to the gym and I just said, hey, can I go to the front desk? I was like, hey, can I go into their offices? They're like, yeah, go for it. And I knocked on their door and I gave my elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was nothing like I had planned.
No.
Because I was going in under the assumption they had seen my email. They didn't see my email. It went to their spam. So it completely changed my elevator pitch. I thought I did a really crappy job, but because I was very nervous, but yeah. I muddled through it and got a few more appointments. And then I knew at the end I had to say, like, so what do you think? Right. Do you want to do it? I had to make
yeah.
And he said, yeah, let's do it. And it come to find out he was already thinking about it.
Yeah.
He was already thinking about how he could partner with a different swim school franchise.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
that's perfect timing. You came in right when you were supposed to.
And 4 years later, here we are, in establishing.
That wasn't 4 years later. That would have been the fall of 2023.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, fair enough. So less than 2 years later.
Yeah.
Well done. And I think that's a big takeaway for people listening is whether it's going with a revenue plan, going with a PowerPoint, going with an email, you came at it with a holistic approach of saying, I have a plan, I have an idea. A lot of people I work with don't understand the risk side of it. How do I keep the pool safe? You did. You knew that what that pool needs to have to be clean. So you weren't going to walk in and just say, hey, it can be cloudy, I'll teach. You knew how to accept their terms and vice versa to say, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to offer. And I think that's a big takeaway. And also, you didn't just sit around and wait for them to reply to an email,
Right,
right?
right. Well, that's the other big takeaway I have on that.
Yeah,
You know, we send an email or we send a card or we do whatever and we just assume that they did get it and then they didn't reply back to us when in reality it went to their spam folder or you know, you had to send it and send it again and walk in the door where people aren't doing those extra two steps. Like it was a
right.
big
Or the
thing to
boss
send
never
it.
got the voicemail, or
Yeah,
yeah,
right, right,
yeah, yeah.
right. So, I mean, don't give up. I mean, everybody that's listening, don't give up. Send it out another email, walk into the office, get your elevator pitch ready.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I've
absolutely.
had three distinct times in my life where I've realized the power of asking for an opportunity. So one of those, the first time that it happened was when I was moving from Wisconsin to Idaho. I didn't have a job when we moved to Idaho. And
Hmm.
when I'd seen this job for Rexburg Rapids, I had to have it. There was no options, yes or no. You know, like I had to have this job. And I was there for maybe a week, something like that. And I walked into City Hall and I said, "Can I speak to the recreation director?"
There you go.
And they said, "Well, sure, go." And they walked me over to his office. And I said, "Hi, I'm Elaena Noffsinger. I applied for this position and I really want it.
There you go.
I'm here in Idaho now because my address before was Wisconsin. I'm here now. Can I interview for this job?" And
Bingo.
and they said, "Okay, give us a couple of hours and then
Yeah,
let's meet over at the pool."
Oh,
done.
awesome.
I met over at the pool. I did a tour. And
Yeah,
after that tour, I had the job.
That's amazing. That is
that
an
is
amazing
fantastic.
story.
That's
So
what people need to hear. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, that was just one of the times. The other time was so I had managed that pool for 2 years with so I was assistant manager, and then there was a woman named Dodie who you should really interview, by the way.
Okay.
She's a powerhouse, but not necessarily, she doesn't have a lot of the traditional experience. Anyway, I'll give you her contact information. But so I was managing this water park with her, and then she had left due to burnout. Okay.
Hmm.
And so then a different woman named Megan had come in, and I know I can name these people because they're still my friends. And that I had mentioned earlier on that I took a summer break. My husband, we went back. So the reason we were in Idaho was because my husband was going back to school. He went back to school in our late 20s. And so we had gone to Iowa for a summer for an internship. So that's why I wasn't there for one summer. But when we came back, I wanted back into this pool. And there was a management shift, things like that. And I didn't have a spot anymore. They filled my position and they had changed the management structure and things like that. And again, I walked right into City Hall and I went to Megan and I had said, "Hey, I want back in. I want this job. What can we do?" She had said, "Well, we filled your position. I don't need you." And then I had people at the City Hall level, in the finance department, in the marketing department, that vouched for me and said, "No,
Mm.
you have to hire her back. She needs to come back." And she said, "Okay, well, I guess I'll find a spot." And and that, I mean, the rest was history. Megan and I became besties after that. But like that's just the power of asking. There was
Yeah,
I
Yes.
didn't they didn't have me in the budget, you know?
I think that's a last key. And we're going to get to the raffle here in just a second and our last takeaways. But I think that's a great reminder. Is just because you've asked once doesn't mean you can't ask again. And if you haven't asked already, put a plan together and ask. So I think
Well,
those are great. Yeah, yeah.
just because the position isn't there doesn't mean the position isn't there. Like,
Right, right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or that they don't need it. So to that point, I know it's been a great discussion, and we've had such a great time getting to know you. Is there any last takeaways? Because I know we want to get to the giveaway.
Yeah, we're gonna do our
'Cause
drawing.
yeah, but to that point, is there any last takeaways, Elaine, or anything you want to share before we kind of round up?
Oh, just breathe this spring. Everybody's
Great
been
reminder.
everybody's, like I think we all have a little bit of PTSD that's coming back right now of like,
Mm.
I have a certain week of the summer that I always have a panic attack. And
Fair.
this year I'm planning on taking a vacation that week.
Good for
Oh,
you.
that's so smart.
Good for you. That's thinking ahead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know it's going to come up, and put those things in place, like schedule that lunch date with that person. And when you say that you're leaving at 4 or something like that, leave at 4. If there's stuff left over, like set your priorities for the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Set
Yep.
up, set them, make sure that you're getting the things done that need to get done. And those extra things, you need to delegate them. And I'm still taking that advice myself. I'm still
Yeah.
figuring this out myself. I am not perfect,
Yeah.
but
To,
we all
you're
need to
spot
get
on.
better at it.
You're spot on. To your point, you're getting a whole vacation. What I tell my staff is buy the movie tickets. Buy the tickets. That way I know you're actually going, oh, I'm going to go see this movie. I'm going to go to this concert. No, no, no. Buy the tickets, then you're going to commit to go. So whether it's 2 hours or 2 weeks, you're absolutely spot on to give people a break. And to your point, we encourage everybody to like, listen, follow, share posts. We're kind of on a hot streak, Nicole. We've had more listeners week after week. So Elaena, no pressure, but we've getting some buzz. So people are liking what we're doing. So it's guests like you that make this happen. So to that, I'll turn it over for closing notes and see who's going to win a big prize.
So I am going to throw in one that I didn't tell y'all I was going to do because I like to fidget while we're talking. So I've got this Brennan's Dream, and Wes knows that I'm in Georgia with Craig. And tomorrow, not because
Craig
anybody
Sears,
told
yes.
me to, yes, not because anybody told me to, but Craig Sears is the founder or CEO for the nonprofit Greater Atlanta Water Safety Alliance, and he has a podcast or a Zoom tomorrow night, a call, a webinar we can all get on. This is obviously not scripted. And they've got Brennan's, is Brennan the one who's talking?
Bill Amelia is talking. So, yes. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
With brennan'sdream.org. So yes, if you guys don't know about that and you've never met him, I definitely recommend that you go there. I have his stickers everywhere because I think he was phenomenal. I got to meet him at the conference. But
so that's your reward for sticking through tonight, is knowing about that and this.
Yeah, if you didn't know about that, that was my drop that nobody told me to drop. So we have 79 people that entered our drawing, and our drawing is my giveaway bag that I can't grab, but it's here, and it's got a whole bunch of freebies in there and a really cool stuff. So I'm gonna scan our winner, and then we'll let our special guest call out who the winner is. So let's see who wins our raffle.
And while it's skin, if you don't know what's in it, go back and watch the last few podcasts because you'll be able to show the video that's in it. So there's your teaser.
Or find our Facebook page, and the winner is
yes,
Beth. You are the proud winner.
All right, Beth.
And Beth, you'll be getting an email from me. So if you don't know what Beth you are, it's because you didn't give your full name. So I'll give it to you in an email. You'll get that. And then, of course, everybody that listened tonight got to hear that. So I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight and being here. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on and being our guest. It was awesome. You had such great information for everybody.
Absolutely.
I think this was a really good one right before May 1st when we're all going to not stop running. So
absolutely.
All of our listeners, though, Wes said it before, I'll say it again. Make sure you follow, like, comment, share this, of course, with someone else. We still take guests. And come back next week. Next Wednesday, we have a new release. And that is all, guys. Thank you so much for joining.
Do you mind if I throw a plug-in for my swim school, too?
Oh, no, please.
Go ahead.
And also go and like Streamline Swim Academy.
But yes.
Facebook and Instagram. Don't get us confused with the Australian version. So look for this little icon. But
show us your shirt again.
Oh, yes, show.
Yeah.
There you go. Streamline Swim Academy. Beautiful. Plug it. Absolutely. Well done. Good for you.
All right, guys. Have a safe summer. We want 0 drowning.